Greetings. Today we're going to be doing updates from previous versions of ResCarta to the version 7. This is running version 607, but you could be running something 5 or 4. This is ResCarta tools. You've got 607 and 606 both on this machine. If we're going to do a version 7, we can leave the unit running. I'm going to go over here and log in as the administrator just to check to see where my data is sitting. So on this machine, I've got it, the data is on C. It's on C, RC Data 1. So here's the index IR6. That was for version 5 or for version 6 for ResCarta Tools and for ResCarta-Web. So we got our website running. It's running 607. I'm going to go over to ResCarta.org. And as soon as it pops up, machine's running a little slow today. I'm going to come down here and grab version 7. And I'm going to take the Windows version because this is a Windows box I'm running on, but you can take the Linux or Mac version if you need to have that. Okay. So it's thinking about it. Okay, I'm going to save this. Okay, and that's going to take some time to download here. That's up in the upper corner up here. This is Firefox, and it's showing the download creeping away right up in here. So it's almost done now. All right, so let's go and open this file. When we do this in Windows, of course, it's going to be protected. We got to click More Info and say Run Anyway. That's if you trust us here at the ResCarta Foundation. And it runs the installer, and if you've run 4 or 5 or 6, you've done this a couple times in your life. If you haven't, this is what you have to do: accept the license. Next. Where it's going to actually put the data, it's going to start it in a new directory. Next. Here's something you might want to take a look at. And when you do this, it should say, if you're a 64-bit machine, it should be saying 64-bit Windows, not 32-bit Windows. That is dependent. ResCarta reads your Java. And you really do want to have, let me just click next here. You really do want to have 64-bit Java on your machine if you have a 64-bit operating system. Why? Because without it, 32-bit Java will only allow you to use a gig of RAM. So if you got 4 gig or 6 gig on your machine, you want to be able to use it for data conversion, especially for videos. You're going to have a little bit more than a gig of RAM free. Okay, so this is installing, and of course the Apache Tomcat server comes down. This is probably the biggest thing. The toolkit is already pretty much installed. We can also install an Apache Tomcat server so you can test drive your data before you launch it onto a web server, or even if you want to run it locally. So it's going to take probably a couple of minutes. I should tap dance here or do something. Anyway, just about done. It's going to launch up GoScript. GoScript is another open source software tool. It runs a separate installer. We don't bundle that directly into our system. So it's going to install GoScript, which is used to convert normal PDF files. And I don't really want to read this README file, so I'm going to shut that off and say Finish. And just about done now, and it says Next. And then it'll say Done, and when it's done, you click Done. And that's it. So we should have our 6 web servers still running. And it's active and happy, and nothing changes that we're installing the toolkit on the same machine that has the web server. So let's go down here, look under R now. So now we have ResCarta Tools version 7. So if I click that open, you'll see that you've got the standard toolkit, except that now you've got also a Kaltura video upload tool, which is a multimedia server. If you want to use that besides ResCarta or integrate it into your Kaltura server, we have that. I'm going to open Collection Manager. opens up. You see the version number at the top there. And, oh, this is the last one I was working on. ResCarta, remember, is the last location you were at. So if you have multiple institutions you're working with, which I do every day, it'll remember that. So here's our little sample website that's running here. And I just wanted to open up the collection manager so it tickles it and says, okay, I'm in the right place, and I'm going to see RC Data 01. Okay, I'm going to exit here. Say okay. Now, we need to open up our, click on our ResCarta 7, need the indexer, click. And it's going to, again, the last place I work, so I'm going to change that to C RC Data 01. All right, and it shows that, and then it'll click over and say index IR7 here. This is important. If you haven't changed locations, it might pop you to IR6. Why is that? Let's go take a look at C RC Data 01 down here. Notice you already have an IR6 index, and that was the last index you built. So, and if I say open this, it's going to put RC Data 01. We don't want that, okay? We want it really to say C RC Data 01 IR7. So if it doesn't automatically put it there, it's your responsibility to make sure that that's happening. That's about the only bugaboo that it kind of might be a tripper point for you. Okay, so let's begin indexing here. If you've got hundreds of items or thousands of items, or if you've got a large newspaper collection, this might take several hours. In our case, it pretty much was done just right now. So we've got index IR7 here. So that's done. So now we've got an index built for our collection that's running a new Lucene. There's enhancements in Lucene, that's why we changed that. So this is our 607 website. Okay, so it's still running, it's all happy, browse collections, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we've updated the toolkit, we've updated the data with a new index. So now I'm going to stop the Tomcat server that's started, so I'm going to stop it. And it says stopped, and we can test that by just going back over to behind here and click on any tab, and it should say thinking about it there, unable to connect. So that means it has been shut down. All right, so we've stopped our server. Now I'm going to go over to, this is where our data is, and we're going to go over to C Program Files, click, Apache Software Foundation, Tomcat 9, Web Apps, and we have the root because if you open up your ResCarta-Web manual, it'll tell you that this is how you can clean up your URLs. Now I'm going to just change the name of this so that it doesn't run from here, but also that I've got some things that I've modified under the old website I want to copy to the newer website. Let me go get our program files. Now we've already added the toolkit, so I'm going to go down to the toolkit here, and the toolkit has a Tomcat server. Notice this is 8.5, ResCarta-Web. I'm going to copy it, boom, and I'm going to paste it into my actual web server. That says, say go ahead. You need to be the administrator or have administrative access in order to write to program files under Windows. So it'll be copying that data from web apps to web apps. So now we've got something called ResCarta-Web, and it's got the new version 7. And I'm going to go in here and just change this back to root. All right, continue. So now that I got this as root, there is the work directory, which has your modifications. Here's Mirador, and this is the sample data that comes with the toolkit. We don't really need that, so I'm going to delete the data. Okay. That just takes up space. Okay. On your work area, you've got your header images. You may have modified a header or sent up a new header, so you can copy those over. And in your web conf directory, if there's any major changes that you've done, you might want to have that and edit that as well. In this case, we're pretty much standard. So we're going to start it back up. It's starting. It says started. Okay. Let's go back over to our web browser and click refresh. It says, oh, we got to send some information. Go ahead. Problem loading, blah, blah, blah. Now, because this is a new instance of ResCarta-Web, and because we deleted the data from below, it's not going to pop up the demo data. So we're going to log in, and it'll maintain your old login because that's part of Tomcat, not part of the web application. So admin, password. I'm logged in. I go to server administration. Click. Thinking about it. There it goes, compile, there. So it was looking for the data under this URL, which is where the sample data was placed. So we're just going to make this CRC data 01, which is where our data is, or should be. I can save that, or, if your data is on, I don't know, you have a D drive, it can be D, RC data 1. If your web server is not on the same, or if your web server is on a web server and you've got a production machine, you might have to go across the network like my server share RC data 1, wherever your data is. Now, the Tomcat user that runs the service must be able to have access to that area. So that's another caveat, and you can look up the documentation for that. Okay. So our header has to be changed back to the header logo that we had on the other site. And this link, we really wanted to run back to this site, so I can just cut it from here and paste it. Paste the whole thing. Paste it in here, and I'll save that. Boom. All right. Okay, so now if we go to our thumbnails or general, those will all be the same because the data really hasn't changed except for the index. So we are running our new ResCarta-Web, and I can do simple searches, or I can browse collections, I can browse titles, since we're reading the same data. And if I scroll down here, I'm on ResCarta-Web 7.0.0, and it took us under 15 minutes, including downloading from the web, and that's how we do it.